Welcome back, minions. The adventures in the County of Eor as the team searches for the tomb of the Lizard King continue, with the team having just annihilated the Lizard Man ambush. They are on their way to the village of Waycombe, searching for answers. Let's see if they find any, shall we? As always, the action is recreated using the Order of the Stick Monster for Every Season cutout minis. The players: Grant as Rotkill, neutral good Dwarven Fighter, level 8. Claude as Dub, neutral good Dwarven Thief, level 8. Les as Bovel, neutral good Human Magic User, level 7. Ron as Valletta, chaotic good Human Cleric of Tymora, level 7. Dave as Daryl, lawful good Human Paladin of Lathander, level 6. Sean as Octavius, chaotic good Human Ranger, level 6. And one henchman, Larian, chaotic good Human Cleric of Tymora, level 4. The group has just spent the night camping within sight of the Great Bridge, observing it in the aftermath of the Lizard Man attack. In the morning, Octavius spends time tracking the area to see what he can find, and his efforts yield fruit as he finds the tracks of 4 people avoiding the road. Oh, and funny story, minions. The existence of the Lizard Man prisoner from the previous session was completely forgotten about by players and the DM, so he fades from existence, never to be thought of again. Until now, that is, because I see all. Remember that, minions. The group packs up their camp, then Octavius uses his immense tracking skills to follow the 4 individuals. Gait and size suggest humans. The path follows the riverbank, and sure enough, they come across a campfire with 4 men cooking fish. Octavius sneaks forward to spy, noting that these men are wearing the colors of the Count of Eor. Listening in as best as he can, he hears grumbles and complaints about their situation. Octavius returns to report, at which point the entire team moves forward to make contact, though they keep weapons at the ready given the possibility that these are bandits dressed in the Count's colors. The men are caught off guard, appearing quite scared, but Daryl handily calms them down. The team quickly ascertains that these men are indeed soldiers of the land and sheath their weapons. Up close, it's clear that these men have recently seen battle and are injured. One has his arm in a crude sling. The 4 men were part of a larger force that was beset by bandits. Some of their comrades were killed, others taken, but they managed to rout the bandits for the most part. These 4 men were on the trail of a wounded bandit that fled the encounter, but lost track of him. Daryl uses his ability to lay on hands to heal the injuries of the man with his arm in a sling. These men are grateful, but still a little unsettled by events. They pack up their own camp and return to their patrols before heading back to report. The team informs them that a larger force sent by the Count should only be a day or 2 behind them. After parting ways, Octavius leads the team backwards, following the soldiers' trail back to the area where they said a battle took place. There was indeed a battle of some kind, and Octavius's ability to read the tracks indicates that many were killed and several were indeed taken alive and dragged away. There is no evidence, however, that the 4 men they spoke with followed anyone. Rather, their tracks left the scene alone. The group deduces that they were lying about following someone and wonder what that means. They debate the next course and decide that following the trail of the attackers towards the marsh is the best bet. But before they can head out, a voice calls to them. An old man, hobbling towards them with a cane, huffing and puffing, pleading for help. The group is immediately suspicious, as they have heard from multiple sources that bandit attacks are preceded by an old man. This puts them on alert, checking all directions for movement. The old man is tired and haggard and claims to have fled Waycombe. He is making his way to Vendari to find his family. Troubles keep mounting, and Waycombe has become unsafe with all the attacks. As the man is speaking, Daryl studies him, using his ability to detect evil, but sees no evil aura on the old codger. The group stays their intent to follow the tracks to the marsh, instead making camp. They feed the grateful old man, who immediately falls asleep, being utterly exhausted. The night is uneventful, save for one thing. During the witching hour, while Bovel and Rotkill are on watch, the dwarf gets a nagging feeling that someone is watching them. They wake the rest of the group to discuss. The old man remains fast asleep. They consider the meaning of the sensation, and though Bovel doesn't sense it this time, on several previous occasions he has, and determined it to be the effect of magical scrying. The next morning, they send the old man on his way, indicating that a force of the Count's men should not be far off at this point. The old man thanks them and is off, energized from the food and a good night's sleep. The day is overcast and a rain incoming, so the team moves quickly to follow their quarry towards the marsh. Octavius easily finds his way to what tracks indicate is a rendezvous point for multiple groups that they presume are bandits. Octavius also notes lizardman tracks among these groups. The mass then collectively heads towards the borders of the marsh. The storm clouds are coming fast, meaning rain is imminent, so the team hurries. Bovel uses boots of levitation to rise up into the air for a better view. In the distance, he can see the vast expanse of the Marsh of Chilimber, hundreds of square miles of uninviting terrain, but no sign of their quarry. Bovel lowers himself back down to the rest of them, where Wakeol volunteers to receive a fly spell so he can scout ahead. Bovel casts the magic, and Wakeol scouts forward from the air. Closer to the border of the marsh, Wakeol spots a force of almost 24 hobgoblins marching along the perimeter. He returns before they can spot him. The team moves quickly to intercept the hobgoblins and lays an ambush. As the force approaches into range, Darrow rides forth on his horse to draw their attention. The hobgoblins aren't hostile, however, and the leader calls to Darrow, asking if he's a friend or foe. Darrow finds he has no time to negotiate, as the rest of the team isn't interested in the talky-talk. So they take a quick vote amongst themselves, then launch into violence without further parley. Bovel rises up, ready to cast, and the hobgoblins ready their own longbows. Initiative is diced, with the team winning by 3 segments. Since Bovel is casting his fireball spell, which is a 3-segment casting time, his spell will launch simultaneously to the hobgoblin missile fire. The clerics casting slower spells will wait until after missiles are launched. The warriors of the group stay back, as they know Bovel is prepping his fireball, so they don't want to get into range. Arrows from the hobgoblin volleys strike Larian and Valletta, disrupting Larian's spell. Valletta, however, is wearing full plate armor, which has a damage reduction feature, reducing damage from hits by up to 2 per die. The arrow that strikes only does 2, meaning his armor absorbs the hit, avoiding any personal damage. Darrow's mount takes a minor hit, and 2 arrows strike Bovel as he was casting. But as the timing of the initiative dice indicate that this is simultaneous, these impact as the spell is cast. The fireball streaks forward and explodes, killing the entire hobgoblin force in one fell swoop. It goes to show, minions. The magic user is your nuke. Protect them at all costs. The team loots the smoldering corpses, and the DM makes various item checks to see if the fireball destroyed pieces of equipment. While some of the hobgoblin's gear is unsalvageable, there are still plenty of spoils to take, including coin, armor, weapons, etc. They load these onto their own wagon and return to the road, intent on continuing their journey to Waycombe. Later, as night approaches, the team comes across a massive oak tree, split by lightning at some point. Before the tree is a man dressed in the Count's colors, face down and unconscious. Naturally suspicious, they approach on high alert with weapons ready. Upon closer inspection, they see this man is indeed in a bad way, and there are no signs of trap or ambush. They help him back to awareness with water and aid. Finally lucid, he introduces himself as Trum, the captain of the Count's men. This puts the group back on alert, as the last man who claimed to be Trum was an impostor who subsequently attacked them. As well, the real Trum is missing and feared dead. They interrogate him, asking a variety of questions, and it becomes increasingly clear he is who he says he is. Trum offers up what information he can, talking about his capture and being taken into the marsh by bandits and lizardmen. 2 of his men sacrificed themselves so that he could escape, and he's been on the run since, delirious from exhaustion and hunger. He also tells the group that the bandits are using Waycombe as a staging area. A copse of trees in the field behind the inn is their prime meeting spot. While Trum is talking, Darrow surreptitiously scans him for evil, detecting that same strange aura of evil around him, but like the prisoner back in Vendare, not emanating directly from him. Darrow reports this to Valletta, who immediately casts a Dispel magic on Trum, though the percentage roll is too high and the Dispel fails. The warrior is alarmed by the sudden casting of the spell on him, and this prompts a reaction roll. Valletta explains that it was necessary, but Trum asks him for a warning next time. Valletta points out that a warning would have defeated the purpose. The reaction is favorable, so Trum lets it go. Octavius pulls Darrow aside and offers that it's entirely possible that someone not inherently evil could be the subject of an unknown effect, and wonders if any of them might also be under such an enchantment. Darrow scans the entire group, revealing that Valletta also has a strange aura of evil around him, though not emanating from him. Octavius and Darrow report this finding, and in an effort to find the source, Valletta strips down to his skivvies and puts all of his gear in a pile. Darrow concentrates again to detect evil, finding that the aura of evil is no longer over Valletta, but is within the pile of gear and his clothing, the source being a ring Valletta had been wearing. This alarms the group, as Valletta has no recollection of where or how he came across the ring. They speculate as to how Valletta acquired the ring and didn't notice that he was wearing it. Trum speaks of the only time he ever encountered a cursed item was when a comrade possessed a cursed sword. He was obsessed with it, and any attempt to take it was met with violence. One time they did manage to separate him from it, but the weapon actually materialized in his hand. Night is falling, and it's time to set watches. Still unsure about Captain Trum, the team puts him on watch with Wakeol and Bovel, figuring that if he does try something, he'd be no match for those two in a fight. The caution is unwarranted, as the night is uneventful. The following morning, Valletta spends 2 full hours in prayer, changing up his usual complement of spells to include a remove curse, a dispel magic, and a divination. Bovel also memorizes a casting of dispel magic as a backup. Valletta casts a dispel magic on the area to try and cancel various effects, but not before the group removes any potions from the area lest they be rendered inert. Another high roll indicates that his efforts yield no fruit. Bovel attempts his and scores a roll low enough to dispel whatever effect is on Trum, as well as briefly cancelling the evil on the ring, though it reasserts after a minute. Trum passes through a wave of confusion as whatever had hold of him is dispelled, which Daryl is able to confirm. His memory is fuzzy, though he does recall his interaction with the group. He states that he was both himself and not, and the last thing he remembers clearly is being ambushed by bandits, an attack that was preceded by an old man who cast a spell. The next thing he remembered is being taken to the Marsh of Chalimber and passing out, then coming to after being set free. He felt an imperative to return to the Count. Well, he currently has that same imperative, but while he was clearly ensorcelled, the imperative came from some external source, though details remain unclear. The group asks Trum about the Great One, and while the name rings a vague bell, he has no concrete recollection. His memory is equally unclear when they ask about this Mordrin, though Trum was among the soldiers aiding Jorlin in hunting down the Cult of Set the previous year. Following the removal of the magical effect on Trum, Valletta attempts to remove curse on the ring. To no apparent effect, the evil aura remains. It is suggested they destroy it, but are worried about some ill effect. Larian casts Augury to get an idea of the outcome, and rolling the bones indicates the result of Wheel. Dub pulls out his tools and manages to break the band, thus dispelling any magic within the ring forever. Daryl scans and witnesses the evil aura fade from the broken ring, and they toss it away. The group packs up and moves on, continuing to Waycombe. Trum has flashes of memory. Waycombe on fire, but his last clear memory before the attack indicated that Waycombe was fine. It occurs to him now to ask what day it is. Only after the group tells him that they are well into the month of Kythorn, with the summer solstice looming, that Trum realizes that he's lost several weeks. Looking down the hill into the village of Waycombe, they see it in ruins. Outlying farms and buildings have been razed down. Only a few intact outlying huts remain, as well as the inn at the center of town. The team doesn't enter the town, instead observing from a distance while Valletta begins to cast his divination spell. The roll is made, and Valletta is able to divine that a powerful old being is present. This concerns the team, as the spell offers no guidance on what that being could be. From the top of the hill they do see movement, and a figure is loading up a wagon outside of the inn. They wonder if they should go down to investigate, or at the very least assist the person at the inn, but the team is hesitant. Daryl's about to suggest something, but Dub interrupts and asks Trum what he suggests. Trum instantly offers that they should leave immediately and return to the Count to report as soon as possible. The man with the cart can take care of himself. None of the goody-goods argues this, not even the righteous paladin, and the group immediately turns around to depart without entering Waycombe. En route back to Vendari, they encounter the force of men promised by Count Brunus, and the entire company returns to Vendari, where the session concludes. A packed session today, minions. A lot happened. Mostly information gathering and roleplay, but that's not a bad thing. This group is at the level where combats against mundane foes will tend to be one-sided. I do hope the team doesn't get too complacent. But let's talk about the encounters and the encounter charts in the module. There were 3 random encounters today and 1 pre-planned module encounter. The 3 random encounters were the 4 soldiers, the hobgoblins, and the old man. The 4 soldiers were stragglers who've basically gone AWOL and abandoned their duties. Now, of course, they don't go around boasting about that, and will make up any story they need to. The clues were there that they weren't entirely honest, but they aren't a threat. Just spooked, and a potential source of information. A good roleplay challenge for DMs from an acting perspective. They have a secret, but also have information that can be passed to the players. How to do it without blowing the secret while dropping the odd hint that there's something more to them. I like this entry in the module's encounter charts, as it offers up a rich non-combat encounter that can yield both information, as well as foster paranoia in PCs if they smell something off, but can't prove it or see through the story. The hobgoblins are just your bog-standard humanoid encounter, though as they aren't aligned with the forces at play against the County of Eor, this is another entry that can turn into almost anything. The hobgoblins are what they are, and a hostile response will yield combat. In this case, the resulting roll was not hostile. They were interested in communication, but the so-called goody-goods murder-hobbled their way through this encounter, and that was that. A source of information wasted, as the hobgoblins ostensibly have knowledge about the Marsh of Chalimber. But that's the player's loss. The best encounter, in my opinion, was the old man. This is beautifully tied into the information the group receives about the banditry, and how an old man precedes each attack. But is he a part of the conspiracy, or just a harmless old red herring? I certainly won't tell. Naturally, players are going to be overly paranoid about this, and I can even see some groups not taking any risks and murdering the old man before he can speak. Imagine the indignation of a player running a paladin or ranger being told that they are no longer a paladin or ranger after murdering someone. Glorious. Common sense prevailed here, and the good aligned characters wisely chose to uphold their moral bent, while still exhibiting caution, of course. So, good on them. The pre-planned module encounter was the third of 3, and involved meeting the real Captain Trum. As the players were already alerted to charms and enchantments, it didn't take them long to suss out that Trum was under some spell, and act accordingly. A charmed Trum in the employ of the enemies causing havoc behind the scenes could also be a fun thing to play out if PCs don't clue in. But they played smart and careful, and were able to dispel the enchantment on Trum, thus securing his proper return to Count Brunus. That said, the group did take a bit of a rating hit in their performance ratings when they reached Waycombe. For those not in the know, in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st Edition, the DM awards a performance rating ranging from excellent to poor after each session. Each of these ratings offers a numerical value of 1 to 4, 1 being the best, 4 being the worst. When a character levels up, the average of all their ratings is calculated, and it determines the training time and cost to reach the next level. It's actually quite a neat system, and one day I shall do a dedicated video exploring the ins and outs of it. But for today, just the basics to understand what I meant when I say a rating hit. The DM here defaults everyone to good play, with individual actions increasing or reducing as appropriate to a given situation. This group is usually on point, achieving constantly good play with some boosts to excellent, and only very rarely a ding to average or poor. But here, the decision to abandon Waycombe and not investigate whether or not the person they saw in the distance needed help warranted a rating hit to average for the entire team. They are good aligned, on a mission of mercy and discovery, and yet they turn their back on a town that is clearly in trouble. Yes, the DM here felt that warranted a hit. As I said, given that their usual average is pretty solid, this one hit won't likely affect any of them too much. But I wonder if it's a sign of things to come. They are becoming more paranoid, maybe a little bloodthirsty. And I've often seen players start to make choices out of fear for their characters, which can be out of character for the PCs. They have been playing these characters for some time, and built them up to where they are now over years of play. As the stakes rise, so too does the tension. Or maybe I'm completely wrong, and this was just a hiccup because the game session was long and everyone was tired. Time will tell, minions. Otherwise, the pre-planned journey from Vendari to Waycombe, while linear and a touch ham-fisted, does play well enough. Given it's a long journey over several days, there are also plenty of ways it could be expanded, if the DM felt like drawing things out. Other towns and mini-adventure scenarios could be seeded in, making for a whole mini-campaign. This playthrough is right to the point, but the option organically built into the layout isn't a bad thing. With the PCs having returned to Vendari, the next session will pick up back in the court of Count John Brunus of Eor, as the PCs report and plot their next move. They know that they must enter the Marsh of Chalimber at some point for the answers they seek, as well as to further their own goal, and that's where things really kick into gear. Still, other mysteries loom, like what was the great entity in Waycombe? What indeed, minions, what indeed? Join us for the upcoming episodes as our playthrough of Module I-2, The Tomb of the Lizard King, continues. And with that, ta for now.